To me, genuine allyship is supporting and listening student athletes who are Indigenous and members of our community that are Indigenous. I think that goes a long way, just making sure that you're attending events that are being put on, making sure you can learn, reading on your own to find out more information. It all just has to come down to supporting each other and listening to people's stories.
I think to me, genuine allyship looks like more than just a one day. It's like a year long or continuous process of taking action, being aware, and acknowledging Indigenous voices in our spaces, and just making sure that we can be inclusive and equitable to all.
I think that allyship in all forms cannot be a passive process. So I think as a student athlete, it's about actively seeking out opportunities for ourselves, our teams, our coaches to listen and learn about Indigenous initiatives, and also recognizing that reconciliation is a continuous commitment and not just restricted to September 30th.
I think allyship is all about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think at times there's a lot of hesitation and uncertainty around having these conversations. I think that people are often scared to say the wrong thing, or they just don't really know how to go about them. So I think that strong allyship looks like really just leaning into not knowing and being okay with learning how to better yourself and really gain like a deeper understanding just through self-reflection and support.
To me, genuine allyship means, not just symbolic gestures, but actually putting in the work to understand the perspectives, the history, and, struggles that Indigenous people face every day.
I think that reconciliation to me looks like listening and learning about the Indigenous voices and the stories of the past, and continuously learning on how we can improve our spaces to be more equitable and inclusive to all, making sure that we work together to a better future.
I think after reflecting on the calls to action, one thing that really stood out to me about reconciliation was that it's a continuous process, and it's not just like a one and done type of thing. It's all about acknowledging the harm that was done and showing up every day committed to being better and doing better.
To me, reconciliation means acknowledging the harmful acts that have been done to the Indigenous communities, while also continuing, learning about residential schools and colonization and how those institutions have or still have an effect on Indigenous communities.
For student athlete spaces to be more inclusive of Indigenous voices, I think that we need to take time to find those Indigenous voices in our community and have them speak with us, let us listen. I think that as a team, you can do so much more than just around September 30th. Maybe your coaches can get involved, have them get speakers for you, like read together, have like a little book club. I think these things are so important, and they allow those voices to be brought into our spaces if they haven't already been there before.
I think that there have been a lot of team-led initiatives that really highlight Indigenous voices. And I know that some teams have even been collaborating with Indigenous artists to help create warm-up shirts and jerseys. And I think that this act really not only highlights Indigenous creativity and knowledge, but it also symbolizes our commitment to reconciliation and our commitment to allyship.
I think that as student athletes beyond September 30th, we can do things individually as well as with our team. For example, my team does learning about Indigenous culture year round with our assistant coach. And I think that's really important for valuing those voices and learning about our history as Canadians. I also think as an individual at Queen's, there's courses you can take through the LLCU department, as well as reading your own books. I read a book called 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act this summer by Bob Joseph, which was a great book for learning. It showed me so much that I didn't know, and I think that allows me to take my learning just one step further and go even more beyond just Truth and Reconciliation Day and how I can learn more about Indigenous culture and reconciliation in Canada.
I think for me as a student athlete who's been here now for 4 years, the hope that I see is the continuous growth and movement of our student athletes joining in to come to our lunch and learns, come to the Sacred Fire, and taking the time to educate themselves on how we can include Indigenous voices in our sports spaces, whether that be with the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action or the continuous process of learning, growing, and listening to these stories.
What gives me hope are conversations such as these that highlight and bring awareness to the importance of allyship and reconciliation. I also think that the emergence of certain spaces on campus, such as our BIPOC Student Athlete Committee, give me hope as they make way for Indigenous voice and community, and I think that's a step in the right direction.